In a world that celebrates heroes, we often forget the people who stand beside them. Welcome back to the channel. If you love powerful, true stories of resilience, courage, and hidden strength, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who needs inspiration today. Tonight, we explore the life of a woman history tried to reduce to a footnote, but who refused to live in anyone's shadow. This is the story of Anne Morrow Lindbergh. And this is not just a story about being someone's wife. It is a story about identity, loss, courage, controversy, reinvention, and the quiet power of finding your own voice. The woman before the legend. When Anne Morrow married Charles Lindbergh in 1929, the world had already decided who she would be. Charles was Lucky Lindy, the first man to fly solo across the Atlantic, the most famous person alive. He was not just a pilot, he was a symbol of American heroism. And when he chose a bride, the world expected her to smile politely, attend events gracefully, and fade softly into the background of his greatness. But Anne Morrow had other plans. Born on June 22, 1906 in Englewood, New Jersey, Anne grew up in a privileged yet intellectually rich environment. Her father served as the U.S. ambassador to Mexico. Her mother was a poet and later the acting president of Smith College. Anne was thoughtful, literary, deeply reflective. She loved words more than machines. She dreamed of poetry, not propellers. She graduated from Smith College and imagined a life built on ideas and writing. Then Charles Lindbergh walked into her father's embassy in Mexico City, and everything changed. He was magnetic, calm, intense. He invited her to fly, and in that moment, something awakened inside her. The sky did not belong to him alone. It could belong to her, too. Claiming the sky. In 1930, Anne became the first woman in the United States to earn a glider pilot's license. She refused to be a passenger in her husband's adventures. She would be crew. That same year, she served as navigator on a transcontinental speed record flight. She handled calculations, managed radio communication, learned Morse code. She wasn't in the cockpit because of who she married. She was there because she earned it. Over the next few years, Anne and Charles mapped thousands of miles of air routes across continents, routes that would later become commercial airline paths. In 1934, the National Geographic Society awarded Anne the Hubbard Gold Medal, the first woman ever to receive it for her role as co-pilot and radio operator across 5 continents. Anne Morrow Lindbergh was not decorative, she was essential. And yet, destiny was preparing a storm no achievement could shield her from. The crime of the century. In 1932, their 20-month-old son, Charles Jr., was kidnapped from his nursery. What followed became known as the crime of the century. The world watched in horror. Newspapers camped outside their home. Reporters consumed every detail. The ransom negotiations, the desperate search, and then the unbearable discovery. Their child's body was found 2 months later. Grief became public entertainment. Their pain was dissected by strangers. For Anne, this tragedy was not just the loss of a child. It was the loss of privacy, safety, innocence. She retreated into the only place that still belonged to her, writing. Words became her shelter. While cameras flashed outside her home, Anne processed sorrow in ink. Writing was the one space tragedy could not invade. Controversy and self-reflection. The Lindberghs eventually moved to Europe, seeking privacy for their surviving children. But the European years brought controversy. In 1940, Anne published The Wave of the Future, expressing views aligned with isolationism before World War II. The backlash was fierce. Critics attacked her. Years later, she admitted openly, "I didn't have the right to write that. I didn't know enough." That honesty reveals something powerful. Anne was not perfect. She evolved, and growth often requires the humility to admit you were wrong. Her life was not a straight line of triumph. It was a complex journey of learning, loss, and reckoning. Gift from the Sea. Then, in 1955, Anne wrote the book that would redefine her legacy, Gift from the Sea. Written during a quiet beach vacation, the book used seashells as metaphors for stages of a woman's life. It explored solitude, identity, marriage, motherhood, the tension between duty and selfhood. At a time when women were expected to disappear into domestic roles, Anne permitted them to have an inner life. The response was extraordinary. The book sold more than 3 million copies. It was translated into 45 languages. It remained on bestseller lists for years. Women around the world found themselves inside its pages. For millions, Anne was no longer Charles Lindbergh's wife. She was their voice. She proved something profound. Tragedy can break you, but it can also deepen you. Hour of Gold, Hour of Lead. Anne continued writing poetry, memoirs, and diaries. In Hour of Gold, Hour of Lead, she chronicled the years surrounding her son's kidnapping with devastating honesty. The title itself tells the story. Life contains hours of gold and hours of lead. Joy and unbearable sorrow can exist in the same marriage, the same year, the same heart. Her writing was never dramatic for attention. It was reflective, thoughtful, human. After Charles died in 1974, Anne lived quietly for another 27 years. She wrote about solitude, not loneliness, but the richness that comes from reflection. She explored what it means to live authentically, even when the world defines you by someone else's name. The Shadow and the Light. Anne Morrow Lindbergh died on February 7, 2001, at 94 years old. She had published 13 books. She had pioneered aviation routes. She had survived unimaginable tragedy. She had helped millions of women understand themselves more deeply. And yet, history still primarily remembers her as Charles Lindbergh's wife. That is the cruelty of living in a famous shadow. But Anne understood something the world often forgets. Identity is not what others call you. It is what you build in the quiet moments. It is the courage to create when grief tries to silence you. It is the refusal to become merely a reflection of someone else's light. Anne Morrow Lindbergh lived in history's longest shadow, and she created her own light anyway. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect. How often do we allow the world to define us? How often do we hide our light because someone else shines brighter? Anne's life reminds us, you are not someone's shadow. You are your own story. If you found inspiration in this journey, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs inspiration today. And in the comments below, tell me, do you believe Anne Morrow Lindbergh received the recognition she deserved? I read every comment. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.